Hey guys, my name is Robert here, bringing you another little tier ranking video. So today we're going to be ranking Walking Dead locations. So obviously this isn't every single location. I've basically gone for the major ones that are populated with survivors. So I consider doing like every like little location our characters are stopped off by. You know, some of the more interesting ones with like cool backstories. You know, for example, there's the boutique store that Denise goes in with the, you know, the baby that was drowned in the sink. Like that's like kind of like an interesting location to me. Like, and I really like that visually. But I figured instead we'd just do like places where group, you know, like survivors lived. Basically, even, you know, not every single one. Like, I haven't gone so far as to include like that house that like Rick stays in with Michonne and Carl that the claimers infiltrate. Like, I haven't gone to that extent, but I've got like all the major locations here and a few others in between. And I'm also not doing any spin-off locations. We're just going to stick it to the main show for now, just because my opinions on the spin-off shows, I feel like I'm not informed enough when I talk about spin-off characters or spin-off like things, because I've only watched the spin-offs like maybe once or twice. Like, I don't feel like bear in mind, like the first time I watched it, I barely watched it because a lot of those spin-off shows are just they didn't interest me at first. So I really need to sit down one day and watch them like back to back, one every day, and like really like, you know, really like soak them all in. So yeah. Let's just do the main show, though. Now, how am I going to be ranking them? I've just gone with the simple S, A, B, C, D. I'm going to be ranking them based on, like, a few things, really. A, vibes, like, how cool it looks, like, visually, and, like, I think, like, how practical it is as, like, a location. So that's, the first criteria. The second criteria is, like, how it benefits the story. Could it have been cut from the story? Did it overstay its welcome? That kind of thing. And then the third is just on, well, actually, it's just those two, really. Yeah, those two criteria, basically. I think I had a third, but it's not important. Anyway, let's go via chronological order on how we saw them in the show. So, of course, that means we'll be starting off with the Atlanta camp, which I've got here. So, the Atlanta camp is, it's an interesting one. I think, like, visually, it's really beautiful. Like a lot of the shots, and I think it doesn't end up being as practical, but it makes sense as to why they decide to camp there and not somewhere further out, because, you know, ultimately there's still the hope that the city of Atlanta could be reclaimed. This is obviously located far enough away from the city to be at least considerably, like, or at least considered safe, but then also not too far from the city that if the military or someone does come back, they can always like reach out and, you know, get rescued. So I understand it from like a story point of view as to why they're there. I think visually it's like a beautiful location. Yeah, but obviously ultimately it isn't very safe, which I think knocks it down a point. I'm going to put it as an A, though. I'm going to put it as an A. I think, you know, it didn't overstay its welcome. It's a nice enough location. It's a cool way to start as well. You know, we're starting simple. We've just got some people camping, which, you know, I feel like makes sense too. Yeah. So I'm going to leave it as an A. I think it deserves that. The next location we see is, of course, the Vatos, the nursing home. Now, we don't really see a whole deal of this like community, really. We kind of see the front entranceway, and then obviously Rick gets guided through the little like nursing home area of it. Now, obviously, it does get attacked and killed off screen in a deleted scene, and I think it was confirmed that this did actually happen. So, yeah, it didn't end up being safe, and I feel like we just didn't get like a good like view of the whole place, really. So in terms of like, I don't think it's like that interesting of a location for me. Obviously, it isn't that practical. I think story wise, it makes sense. It's like why we see it. I think the Vatos are like, they're a weird plot thread where I think we didn't need to have them. Like, I think the story survives without them, but I don't think they're like bad, right? But that being said, I just feel like I'm going to put it in C. I'm going to put it in C tier. I just feel like, I just feel like the location to me isn't that memorable, isn't that interesting, mainly because we didn't really see much of it. Next is the CDC. This is an easy A tier for me. I really like this location. I think it makes sense to the story perspective why they eventually decide to all, migrate to the CDC. I think the building itself looks cool as fuck. I don't know I think it is just like the real, like it's based off the real CDC in Atlanta, I'm pretty sure. But regardless, it's cool as fuck. All the interior and stuff, like the vibe with the computer and, giving that relief for our characters and the way that like all the sci-fi-esque kind of vibe it gives is really, really cool. Actually, wait, no, I've changed my mind. The CDC, S tier. Yeah, no, screw it, I'm going to go there. I feel like the CDC plotline is like really underrated. I really like both those episodes. Well, mainly, obviously, the finale. I think it's a good-ass finale, it's tense as fuck. We get like a nice lull, like a nice release for our characters. We finally see them happy, other than Andrea. And then we, finally, well, and other than Laurie. The women are getting the shit. But, yeah, and then obviously it's all for nothing, and they have to, like, this tense, like, escape, and they have to run away, and then it blows up, and, yeah, it's not the most, maybe I knock it down because it wasn't that safe, but it was only not that safe because of the computer. Maybe I'll knock it back down to A. I'll knock it back down to A, okay? It's an A tier, though, that's good enough. Maybe I shouldn't do, like, how safe it is. Maybe I should just go with, nah, I'm gonna drop that. I'm just gonna go with, like, story-wise and, like, my enjoyment of them. Hershels Farm. I think Hershels Farm is a clear B. I think Hershels Farm, although I like Season 2 overall, I don't give it as much hate as other fans would. I feel like we were on the farm too long. I think, like, as a location, it overstayed its welcome. As a visual, it overstayed its welcome. It's not that particularly interesting, but it is just a big farmhouse with a barn and some stables and a field, right? It's not that interesting of a location, and it lasted a long time. That being said, it makes sense for the story. I understand why they stay there. I understand why they want to stay there, because it seems relatively safe. And obviously, in the end, they're forced to flee. It makes sense as to why they're welcomed, because of obviously Carl is shot, and them looking for Sophia. So I think, like, in terms of, like, the story and everything, it all makes sense. It's an all fine location. I just think it overstays its welcome a little bit. And, it's interesting enough, but not interesting to stare at it for, like, what was it, 13 episodes? Or 12 episodes, whatever it was. Or 11 episodes. I forget now. How many is Season 3? Season 3 is 13, isn't it? I think Season 3 is 13. Season 2, sorry. Misspeaking. Anyway, what does it matter? But we see it for like more than 10 episodes, and that is probably too much. Next one. What would have been the next one? I'm trying to do these chronologically. So we go to the prison next, yeah. Yeah. So the prison. For me, prison is easy S tier. I think it survives. It makes sense as a location. It's a really interesting visually location. Obviously, this is when the show got a bit more grimy, a bit more dark. And for a long time, I didn't like that. I didn't like the gritty feel of the prison. Something about it, like, turned me off the show. I used to kind of hate Season 3. And I've completely, like, 180'd my view on Season 3 upon, like, in, like, recent years. Not just on my recent rewatch, but just in general, right? I really like the look of the prison. Like, you got the guard towers, like the cafeteria, the different cell blocks, all the different parts of it too. Like, and the fact that you have the two, like, lanes of fences, so you have, like, the two defenses against the walkers. Yeah. I think it's a cool location, and I like all the exterior of the prison too, like the little river that surrounds it, and the trees, the woods that surrounds it, and all that, and then I think what they turned the prison into in the season after the Season 4 and Season 3 time break, with like the cool ass like gate that they have on it, and all that, and they have like the little pigs and the stables and all the crops and all that. Yeah, I just feel like it's a cool ass community. I think it was when the show was at its most interesting for me, and its best, and I think the location, didn't overstay its welcome. I think it was a perfect, it lasted longer than Hershels Farm, but I think it was warranted, right? I think the prison being there as long as possible was okay, and it didn't overstay its welcome. And I really like it. I think I'm going to bump the CDC actually down to A tier. Sorry. I think, prison is way better. So, yeah. CDC bumped down to A tier, but prison remaining in the S. Now, where did we go next? Well, Woodbury, I guess. For me, I think Woodbury, obviously, I don't think it overstayed its welcome or anything like that. Don't get me wrong. I haven't included Martinez's camp, but to be honest, that's not that interesting, so who cares? Yeah. Woodbury, for me, I think it's a solid B. Like, it doesn't overstay its welcome or anything like that. It's not the same reason. It's just not as interesting of a community to me. I think I always preferred the comics, like, visual of Woodbury. And I know that seems like... I think in all metrics, the Woodbury prison storyline is superior in the show. But I think the one thing the comic does have is I feel like the location is cooler. More so the location that's described in the novels than like what we actually see in the comics. But like in the novels, like it's very like you have like the main street, and then like there's all these like little streets that lead to the apartments, and then you have the racetrack where they obviously have the sort of gladiator fights. You have like the little infirmary, and then you have like the exterior of Woodbury as well, like the big walls and all that. I just feel like the vibes I get from like the novel and the comic of Woodbury were a bit better for me. And the Woodbury in the show is like fine. It's not like bad. Also I've just noticed Woodbury's spelt wrong in this tier list. It doesn't have 2 R's. But yeah, it's not like a bad community by any means. I just feel like yeah. I just feel like I can't put it any higher than B. It's just a vibe thing, really. Anyway, next up. Where did we go next? So we left the prison. We went to Terminus, I think, right? Am I missing one in between? No. Yeah. Terminus. Terminus is... This one's hard. Unironically, I think probably A. I think, like, visually it looks cool. I think it's, like, the build-up to it is really nice. Like, we're all heading to this community. What's it going to be like? And then the reveal, you know, it seems like, oh, there's a nice woman there. Cool. Looks okay. And then, obviously, it turns out there are a bunch of cannibals. I feel like the way they introduced it was really, really cool. I think, like, visually it looks nice, too. Like, this big, like, railway station and all the tracks lead to it kind of thing. You know, the interior is probably not as... Actually, no, the interior is pretty interesting, too, because you have, like, all the candles and, like, all the little shrines to the people of the dead, and, like, the room full of, like, people's shit, and you obviously have the train cars with the people in them, and the slaughter room, you know, the real horror vibe, like, inside, too. Yeah, I feel like this is a cool-ass location. I think it looks cool. It doesn't overstay its welcome by any means. If anything, I probably would have liked it to stay around for an extra episode. But, yeah, overall, Terminus, I think, is a solid A tier. Really like it as a community. Yeah, so I'll put it there. Next we have... Where do we go next? I guess Grady Memorial. Yeah, for me, Grady's like a C. Like, it's a hospital. We don't get, like, that. We get, like, a few, like, shots with Beth on the roof and Beth outside. I just feel like for the story, this didn't really do much, right? The location itself wasn't entirely necessary. I feel like the hospital... The Grady Memorial Hospital arc is probably one of the weakest plot points in the show. Definitely the weakest plot point in Season 5. I think this plot point really drags down Season 5's rating for me. A lot of fans say Season 5 is their favourite. Season 5 is like one of my least, like my lowest rated seasons, mainly because of the Grady Memorial Hospital. And you might be thinking, well, that's like pretty harsh, right? For like a few episodes. Maybe, but like... It really, like, basically how I, like, rank my seasons is I'll rate the episodes and then work out the average score. And I'm like, okay, I guess, like, the 6.25 is my score for season whatever, right? That's how I kind of that's how I've been working out. Because that seems like the most fair way to do it to me. And I think because of my low rating of the Grady Memorial Hospital episodes, season 5 was, like, brought right down to the bottom. But yeah, I don't find it a particularly interesting location. It's a hospital. We've seen it before, you know, with like Rick waking up in the hospital. I think to go back to that as well, there's something about it. It's weird. I just don't like it. I don't vibe with it. It doesn't do anything really interesting for the story. It kills off Beth. So fuck Grady Memorial. It's a C. And it's only a C. Actually, no, it's a D. Fuck it. It's a D. It's in the D tier. Well, actually, we'll call this the F tier. We'll call this the F tier and we'll put it in grey. Right, the F tier, Grady Memorial. Bad location. Didn't like it. Stinky. Okay, next up we go to... Oh, actually, shit, the church would have been before Grady Memorial, I guess. But chronologically, Beth went to Grady Memorial before the characters went to the church. So, fuck it. It's still right. So, we got the church. St. Sarah's Church. Obviously, Gabriel's church. I just guess a C. Like, it's fine. It's a church. We've seen a few churches before. It doesn't overstay its welcome or anything like that. We're there for a few episodes. Michonne and Carl fucking destroy the church in front of Gabriel to like make it like a defensive thing, and then eventually it's overrun and abandoned, and that's it. We're done with it. I think it was an interesting location to like deal with the termites and all that. Actually, no, I'm gonna put it as a B. I think there's a few good scenes from this like place, this location. Yeah, I like it overall. I like its inclusion. How secure is it? Not very, but I said we're not ranking that anymore, so whatever. Next up. So then we of course travel to I guess next we go to there is the Shire Wilts Estates, Noah's Estates. I thought I did have that, but I think I must have not added the picture. Oh well, it's not that important. Next up we have Alexandria then, I guess. So, yeah, Alexandria, here's my view on this, and I think I'll lay out my thoughts, okay? When we first arrived at Alexandria, I kind of loved it. I think it was probably an S, right? I think, like, Season 5, Season 6, I love Alexandria a lot. I think it makes sense as a community. It's obviously it's houses, it's basically a walled estate, right? It feels like the best step for our characters. A walled estate, with like proper houses and running water and solar panels and really big walls. So I think it's like a visually though, it's like not as interesting as like the prison, I feel, or as interesting as like Terminus, because it is just ultimately a bunch of walls around like a housing estate. It's not that interesting visually, but I think they make it interesting later on. Obviously, when we get to the season 9 time skip, we have like the windmill and like all the different crops and like the way the layout of Alexandria looks so cool. And then I feel like at some point around season 9, Alexandria just got boring for me. And I know like in the comics we stay there till the end. I understand that, but I'm not talking about the comics. We're talking about the show here. And listen, I'm a comic fan, don't get me wrong, but I feel like could we have just left Alexandria in season 9? Like, after the Whisperers destroy it, can't we just leave it? And just everyone move into the Hilltop or something? Or everyone move into the Oceanside? It just felt like... Because then that could, like, exacerbate the food. Because this is my problem with the... Oh, wait. Hang on. This is a bit of a tangent, but I need to talk about it. This is one of my problems with, like, the start of season 11, where, like, one of the plot points is Gabriel's like, we've got 1 week's worth left of food, where we're starving here. And the whole time I'm thinking, hang on a minute. Because then Daryl's like, oh, the game's spent. All the game's like gone because it's been scared off by the Whisperers. And they're like, there's no food. We can't find anything. We have to go to Meridian. My whole, like, my ass, my brain or my ass. My brain. My brain was thinking the whole time. I know it's quite far away, but Oceanside? Can't we just go to Oceanside? Isn't Oceanside a fishing community? Well, the fish won't be scared by the walkers. So why don't we just go to Oceanside and get some fish? Or better still, fucking move out of Alexandria. It's crumbled to bits. It's fucking worthless. Let's everyone haul ass to Oceanside. Those ladies might not like it too much, right? But they'll understand, hopefully. We fought the Whisperers together after all, so we signed a coalition. So unfortunately, this is part of the coalition, Rachel. So you're gonna have to move us in. Everyone moves into the Oceanside. Wouldn't that have made sense? Wouldn't that have, like, from a story perspective, after Alexandria was fucking pointless and useless and the wall was falling down and people were dying? Yeah, so, for me, Alexandria was an S. It was an A. And I think by season 11, like, I just don't care. And my biggest point as well with Alexandria is, like, I think it's because of COVID and stuff, but, like, we barely get, like, a sense of the place anymore. Like, I feel like it's since, like, season 11 especially, I get, like, no sense of Alexandria. Because they barely, like, show any of it. They show, like, a few streets, like, a house, and, like the main, like, the gate and the wall, like, the main wall. Like, remember, like, in season 5 and 6, where we saw, like, loads of different parts of Alexandria, like, the sewers, and the, all the different houses, and the different streets, and we'd get, like, aerial views and stuff like that. We just don't get that, like, later on, and I think that kind of ruins it, too. So, Alexandria, for me, it's a B. Yeah. It overstays its welcome for me. I don't think it's particularly that interesting to look at early on anyway. It does get interesting, I think, when they kind of build it up. But yeah, I think that's probably fair. The next community we see is, of course, the Hilltop, I guess. Yeah. So the Hilltop for me, I think it's an A. I like it. I do think it kind of suffers the same problem as Alexandria does, but in a different way. Like, we get like loads of nice visuals of the Hilltop later on in season 11, but it's a different thing. The problem with the Hilltop in season 11 is no one fucking lives there. Maggie's like, oh, I want to defend this community. Where the fuck are the people? Like, where's Bertie? Where's Cal? Where's Eduardo? Where are the people? Like, we get, like, Marco pops up after being, like, absent for, like, half a season. And then he dies. And it feels like everyone in Hilltop's dead now. Where the fuck is everyone else? Like, I think they show Papa Bear. And Papa Bear and Diane leave. They're like, oh, fuck it, we're going to the Commonwealth, Maggie. See you later, bitch. And they leave, right? And it's like, oh, that's it? Anyone else live here anymore? Yeah, so the Hilltop, I think in season 6, when it's first introduced, I really like it. I think the Barrington house is like stunning to look at, and I think, you know, having it surrounded by the little campers and all that, the little like mobile homes, I just think it looks way more interesting than Alexandria. Yeah, it's just one big house surrounded by trailers, and then it gets built up over time, and, you know, similar to how like Alexandria is, and you have like the different like outer layers of the Hilltop with all the crops, and like the 2 different gates, especially like in season 9, it just looks so fucking cool. And I think the Hilltop does suffer a little bit later on. Same thing with Alexandria, it kind of gets reduced, and they kind of like, I don't think they can. I think because of COVID restrictions and I think laziness, they just couldn't be asked like showing like the Hilltop off as much as they do. And then it gets destroyed, and I'm like, why the fuck is Maggie still living here? I'm kind of glad she moves to the bricks in Dead City and like abandons the Hilltop, because it's like, it is like completely gone. By season 11, I'm like, why is she even trying to like fucking live here? The house is burnt down. The place is like got no one living in it. Maggie, just leave, okay? This is again why I feel like it would have been much cooler if they all just like, we abandoned the Hilltop and just moved to Oceanside. That's the last stand. And part of like the conflict with the Commonwealth, right, is people like Aaron and people like Maggie want to reclaim these communities. They want help. You know, and Maggie could be like to Pamela, we'll do some trade and you'll help my community. But Pamela's like, no. We'll do some trade, and you become an outpost of the Commonwealth. And Maggie's like, I don't want that, actually. Aaron's cool with that. He's like, yeah, that's fine. I don't mind. But Maggie's like, absolutely not. You help me rebuild my community. Sure. I'll pay it back in trade. I'll be in your debt, sure. But I'm not becoming an outpost. We stay independent. And that would have been like the conflict, I feel like, right? That would have been fine. That's how you solve it. But it just makes no sense why they're living in like a fucking shithole that's fallen apart and it's gone. Yeah. Next community that we see would have actually technically been the satellite outpost. Now, I haven't done the individual outposts of the Saviors. I've only done the Sanctuary and the satellite outpost just because those two show up more than once. So the satellite outpost, I think like it was probably an A and then maybe a B. The reason why is like, I feel like we get to see it again, and I'm like, why would the Saviors move back into this like outpost after like all their people have been slaughtered? Because it's not just that, it's like, A, that's pretty horrific, right? All these dead bodies that they would have had to clear out and bury and, you know, clean up everything. And there's obviously like the memory of all these people who lived there. Like these like, 50, 60 guys, or maybe it's not that many. Maybe it's like 30. Like these 30, 40 guys who lived there, right? The people that, you know, called this home. And now you've moved in it. But not only that, it's a compromised location. Like, they know. And you might be thinking, well, the Saviors don't care about that. Well, they obviously do, because the Sanctuary was a secret for like so long, right? That's why like Jesus and Carl, like Jesus goes in the back of the van to find out where the Sanctuary is, like so he can like, you know, track it and find out the location of it. And Carl kind of does the same thing. Now, ultimately, obviously, even though Carl, you know, sneaks to the Sanctuary, Negan kind of doesn't like, you know, kill him or extract that information from him, or, you know, like, or make sure he doesn't know. It doesn't seem to be, because I think he like Negan rides with Carl like in the cockpit, right? In the passenger seat. So it's quite clear that Carl probably could track the way back. But Jesus, and then obviously Daryl escapes in 2. But I feel like at that point, right? No, Daryl hadn't escaped yet, right? Or had he? No, he hadn't yet. So, I don't know. I don't know. I just think seeing it again felt weird. It felt like cheap. Maybe that was what it was. It felt like they were like, oh, fuck. We need another outpost. Oh, shit. Our lease on the Sala outpost, it's still up. It's still going. Should we just film there? And oh, fuck it. Yeah, go on then. And maybe it was more like that. It just felt a bit cheap to me. But, yeah, I think like visually it looks kind of cool. I don't understand why you'd be living in a fucking satellite outpost. There can't be like much good facilities there, but I guess it looked cool, so the show was like, oh yeah, we'll pick that. But I put it as a B. I think like story wise, it makes sense the first time around. The second time around, I don't care. Like you can cut that entire like segment really, and apart from like capturing, they could find like Jared and all that on all those saviors, Alden and Jared and Dean, find them on the side of the road, capture them, move on, right? We didn't have to go back to the satellite outpost, so like ultimately it could have been cut. There's no story reason why it had to be there. So that's the satellite outpost. Next one we see would have been season 7, right? So we're going into season 7. It would have been like in some sort of order. It would have been in this order, right? We'll do the sanctuary because we see the saviors, obviously. So the sanctuary, for me, I think it's an easy. I think it's an easy A tier. Yeah, I've just noticed I'm probably not gonna have anything else in S other than the prison, but maybe that's okay. I don't know. Oh, we'll stick with it. Who cares? Who cares? Yeah, I think nothing matches the prison anyway, so I don't care. Yeah, the sanctuary I think is like really cool looking. I like the look of the factory. I think that they got like a really cool location for that, like a really comic accurate one. Is part of it CGI? Wouldn't surprise me if it was. I'm not sure. Yeah, it just looks cool. I don't think it overstays its welcome by any means. I think we do get, we get like a good look at how it works, like the different components of it. Like we've got like the nice rooms that people live in, and then you got the place where the workers are, the workers floor, and like the exterior parts of it, with like the walkers, kind of as defense. I think it's a cool ass looking location. Makes sense for the story. I understand why Negan lives there. And then we get like a few glimpses of it after obviously the sanctuary falls. And I really like how it falls because of like crops, right? I think it's implied mostly, but like it fails because like they can't grow anything there. It's kind of useless. Like without trade and without them like stealing stuff from other people, it's just not a viable location to live in. It just isn't. So it falls. And I really fucking like that as a story beat. I think that's really cool. That's why it kind of ultimately fails. And then obviously Negan goes back to it a few times, well, once I think, and then Dwight and Sherry go to it in Fear the Walking Dead, and it fucking like it's like crumbling to the ground. And I thought like, oh, okay, the sanctuary is destroyed then, and they're like, we're gonna go back there. So I guess it's not entirely destroyed, but whatever. It's a cool location though. I like it overall, and yeah, it's a welcome entry. The Kingdom. Oh, I struggle. I'm struggling. I think I'm going to go B. I think it's not as interesting as the Hilltop for me. I think like the first episode we see it in the well. I think there's some like cool. I like it because it's like we got the choir and like the different bands, and we've seen like the different parts of it. And I feel like they kind of dropped that after that episode. Like then we just kind of get like more like, oh, we'll see like all the characters gathering around Ezekiel in the center of town, and then we'll see like a fight scene in the theater, and it feels like, yeah, we don't get like that consistent like real feel for the Kingdom. And I think the Kingdom kind of, this happens in season 8 more so, but it has the same problem with like Alexandria and the Hilltop. Like the Kingdom looked like it had like fucking fat, like at least 100 people in it in the first episode, and I swear like half of those extras just like got fired because like the Kingdom looks vastly smaller. And then like moving on, like I don't think the Kingdom gets any cool upgrades like the Hilltop and Alexandria does, and then it just kind of dies of old age in season 9 because of like fires and like pipes exploding, I guess, and it's just abandoned. And that always irked me. I don't know if it's you. I don't know if it's the same with you guys, because like, yeah, like the building was like cracking and stuff. I still don't understand why. Was it just like the storm? Was it the winter weather? Has it just been like the amount of years? I don't know, but like, because it's not just one building; it's like multiple buildings, right? It's like a school, but I think there's like different like buildings in this school, right? I swear there is anyway. I swear there's more than one building in the community. It always bugged me the way the kingdom just kind of dies of old age. But whatever. Moving on, Oceanside, easy F. And I say this for a few reasons. So story-wise, we just didn't need the Oceanside. The Oceanside could be cut, and I've done this before, but let's go. So what plot points does the Oceanside do? So first we have the Tara episode, which we just cut anyway. Who cares, right? We don't do a Tara episode. She just returns. We either do like a few segments in a season 7 episode. I don't think she needs a whole episode, but we do like a few segments cutting back to her or whatever. We know a few flashbacks. We could just open with a flashback of like Heath getting kidnapped or whatever it may be. So we don't need the Oceanside for the Tara episode. Then moving forward, what happens next? So the group steals the guns from the Oceanside. So instead of that, the group could steal the guns from the kingdom. I think that's a way cooler story beat, right? The kingdom refuses to fight, so Rick and co say, okay, fuck you guys, we're stealing your guns. And they infiltrate the kingdom and they steal their guns. This creates a bit more conflict going into season 8, right, between Rick and Ezekiel. And I think, it's just way more interesting. We're not introducing another community then. So that's a cool plot beat. I like that. That's what we're doing. Right. When does the Oceanside next show up? So it next shows up in season 8 when Enid shoots Grandma and Aaron basically does a hunger protest outside Oceanside's walls to get them to fight. So we cut all that, and ultimately Oceanside does join the fight in the fucking finale when they firebomb a bunch of saviors that are coming up on the hilltop. So how do we fix that, right? Someone has to firebomb those saviors, right? Easy, okay? So during that episode, literally the scene before all the single ladies are throwing their Molotovs on the saviors, Alden and like all of the saviors are like all the saviors that have like obviously switched sides. They're all readying their guns to fight the saviors. That's what you do. Tara and Alden and all the other saviors help to kill the saviors that are attacking the hilltop, and so that way you have like a nice payoff to all the build-up we've had with the captured saviors and showing them mercy, because in the end it obviously helps, right? Because they're ultimately able to fight their own men back. And and that way we get rid of the Oceanside in season 8. So the only problem I feel like we have the Oceanside is in season 9, where obviously the Oceanside are the people that are murdering the saviors. Now, there's an easy fix. Someone else is murdering the saviors, right? That Maggie sympathizes with. Who would that be? I don't know. I think it could be like someone from the hilltop. Like, maybe give him some... Maybe it could just like be Cal and Eduardo, right? It's like Cal, Eduardo, Bertie. Maybe it's like a whole like little coalition of people who've had their like family members murdered, right? By the saviors. So we get rid of that. We just have it be a few like more like Hilltoppers or a few like Alexandrians or maybe not Alexandrians, but a few Hilltoppers, a few Kingdomers, right? They're the people who are murdering the saviors. And it's just simple. It's just all these guys, they killed my fucking... They killed my my people, right? My husband, my wife, my child, that kind of thing. So there we go. We solved that. We don't need the Oceanside for the murder plot. And then the Oceanside is just pointless, really. Obviously, we have the training mission that happens at the Oceanside. We get rid of that. We have the Oceanside in season 11 may not as well exist. They may as well have just never had it, because I think it causes more issues than it solves, like I said before with the season 11, like the food issue. And then we have the whole like Lance, has he genocided the Oceanside? Then we see Luke and he's like, I had to run away, we had to run away. And then we find off screen from the fucking showrunner confirming it that actually the Oceanside is okay. Why didn't we see that then? Why the fuck did you tease us? Why did you dick tease us with Lance, like fucking Two-Face from Batman, flipping a coin, looking like he may or may not fucking murder all these single ladies, right? Why would you dick tease us with that and then not reveal it on screen? Fucking wild. Everyone likes to say how Angela Kang saved the show. Angela Kang does some fucking batshit story like beats, crazy stuff. I still maintain, this is really controversial, I maintain this, okay? Scott Gimple was the best showrunner on the show, okay? He was the best showrunner. And people were going to be like, wait, what do you mean? He killed Carl. Yeah, he did kill Carl. That was an awful... Like, season 8 was awful. Season 7 was awful. But he makes up for it with season 4, 5, 6, okay? So I forgive Mr. Gimple, okay? Glenn Mazzaria was okay. Glenn Mazzaria is how you say it. Glenn Mazzaria, whatever it is, was season 3, and I think he also did season 2, or most of season 2. And then Frank Darabont was like season 1 and like a little bit of season 2. I like Frank Darabont, but I just think like the show kind of outpaced that sort of tone. And I think probably Frank Darabont's up there for sure. He just wasn't on long enough. But I don't know how I got on this tangent. Anyway, yeah. What were we talking about? We were talking about Oceanside, yeah. So Oceanside is ultimately pointless. I think it causes more problems than it does. And I don't think it's like that interesting of a location, really. I feel like we could have, like, it would have been nicer to see a bit more of it. Could you imagine if we had like all the different like motorcades, and maybe we had like wouldn't it be cool if there was like a capsized ship on the shore that they've like fucking barricaded, and like they live in this ship, like that, things like that could have been cooler. I just don't think there's like many interesting locations in the Oceanside either as well. And it also suffers from the same thing like later on, where it just gets vastly reduced as a location. Next up, we have the Junkyard. And unironically, I'm going to put it in C. I don't think it's F tier for me. It's pretty bad. Like, it makes no fucking sense why all these people are living in a junk. That's stupid. I've always found that really dumb. I don't care how invested in Jadis you are, how invested you are in art and crafts. There ain't no way you're convincing 200 people to live in a dump. It's not happening. It's unrealistic. You may as well have fucking pigs flying in the show at this point. On top of that, well, I say on top of that. That being said, even, I kind of like it as a location, right? It is kind of cool to see a junkyard. Like, I think, yeah, I don't care. I kind of like it visually. So I give it the edge there for C. And I know there's like the solar panels and the helipad and all that. There's like more things in the community than just like trash and like containers and all that. But it doesn't matter. It's still stupid that they live in a dump. And then, so what else? What was I going to say? On top of that, we've obviously got story reasons, okay? So I think like the junkyards and the scavengers, I think at the very least they actually benefit the story. Oceanside never benefits the story and could easily be cut. You can't really say that for the scavengers, right, and the junkyard. Because obviously you've got the whole stuff with Gabriel getting kidnapped and then finding him, and then you've got the stuff with them joining Rick and then crisscrossing Rick, and then you've got the whole storyline later on where Rick is trying to find, get them to reunite. Now we could just cut all these plot points, and that's true, right? But I think it affects the story way more than like cutting Oceanside would. So yeah, for me, the junkyard is a C. It's a silly location, but I do kind of like it visually. And then story-wise, it's definitely not the weaker part of the story. I mean, all of season 7 and 8 is pretty weak, but like the junkyard isn't like those. The plot points that come from that are pretty bad normally. So I put it at the C tier. It's pretty low. The next location that we see is Meridian. So yeah, Meridian, I don't know. I think probably about C as well. Just not that interesting to look at. I kind of like when Maggie was going on about how like Meridian was stolen, this community was stolen from her, this Meridian community. I was thinking, okay, this must be a fucking cool ass community, right? Because why would the Reapers, like these guys, these mercenaries, why would they be like so hellbent to steal this community? It must be like really secure. And then you look at it and it's like, oh, it's kind of a dump. It's like a few like rusty metal sheets up around like a I guess like an elementary school building and a few other buildings. And it's just like most Americans won't understand this. This is like a B-Tech Alexandria, okay? Meaning like it's like a dire Alexandria, I guess. A shittier Alexandria is what I'm trying to say. That's what it feels like. And I'm like, okay. Like, it wouldn't have been so much cooler if, like, Meridian was, instead of, like, just that, like, a boring fucking looking location, not particularly interesting to look at whatsoever. You don't understand why Maggie cares that much. You don't understand how it survived as long as it did, because could you imagine if it was something like, I don't know, this is, like, something I'm just pulling out my ass, right? But imagine it's, like, a fucking stadium. It's, like, a football stadium, okay? And, like, the car park that surrounds it's like a fucking circular car park that surrounds the football stadium, right? And on that they have like layers and layers and layers of like spikes to keep the dead out, right? And and like a little narrow kind of walkway in between so you can get in and out of the stadium grounds. And then that's like defended by guards, and maybe there's like a tower there as well. And then like you get into the stadium, and then you've got like these little houses that have all been like constructed on the field of the stadium. And then the bleachers are like I don't know, like you could do like so much with something like that. Because you imagine if that was what Meridian was, this fucking cool football stadium that's converted into like a massive like cool ass community. Like that would have, I'd be like, oh fuck, I understand why the Reapers took it now. I understand why Maggie kind of wants it back. Well, she didn't really want Meridian back, but why she like was hellbent on revenge. I feel like that would have been like such a cooler location, but no, the budget, no, the COVID restraints. We couldn't have anything interesting like that, I guess, which is it's a real shame. But yeah, I kind of like the football stadium idea or something like that. Make Meridian a bit more interesting, especially this late in the game. So yeah, Meridian is a C. Now Commonwealth, unironically. People, and I'll explain why. Commonwealth for me is an F, and I'll say it as a location. Now, as a story, right? I don't hate the Commonwealth story. I like a lot of things about the Commonwealth story, but I think the location is awful, and I think this is obviously hurt by the COVID restrictions that obviously were happening when they were filming season 11. But we just see nothing of the Commonwealth, right? We don't see the front gate of the Commonwealth until like the second to last episode, and it looks pathetic. It's like a little tiny gate. And I know there's probably like, and it doesn't even have like an airlock, right? It's not like it's not like a gate and then another gate and then another gate, then the community. It's a gate and then you're into the community. Well, that's an awful fucking security breach right there, right? Why wouldn't you have like an airlock for a start? So yeah, like the front gate looks awful, and then like we just never get we don't get like a nice panning view of the place. I don't have any like concept of how big it is. I felt the same was true with the comic actually. Like we're told that like 40,000, 50,000 people live there, wherever it is. But I just never feel it. It never feels like that many people live there. And I'm not saying you have to hire 40,000 extras or anything like that, right? You just have to show it being like alive, right? I feel like the ones who lived did this pretty well with Philadelphia. I felt like Philadelphia was alive, although we didn't get much of Philadelphia. I probably would have liked a bit more of that too. But I just never at one point felt that the Commonwealth was a real place. It felt like a place with like 1,000 people lived. That generally is how it felt. Like especially like when we go to the estates, I'm like, well, where are the estates situated to like the main area and the hospital and all this? Like, I don't have any like clue on like the location. Yeah, so to me the Commonwealth was just like not very well portrayed in my opinion. I never got like a real sense of this community, of its scale or anything like that. I mean, story wise, fine, it makes sense, I understand it, but yeah, it bugged me so much that it honestly has to go all the way in the F. As a location, it was pretty awful. I think I actually prefer the junkyard, because at least the junkyard is like I get it all, right. I get it. They live in like fucking trailers or whatever. Well, they live in like storage containers in the junkyard. Cool, whatever. It's dumb, but like the Commonwealth had like so much more potential than something like that, and it just didn't. And they just didn't show it off, and that was annoying to me. And I understand that some of that is like COVID restrictions, but still, you gotta do better. Now, Riverbend, oh, fuck it, I just don't care. It's not an interesting location, it's a boring fucking apartment block with a cross on it, and then, like, your Toby Carlson throws some people off the roof, and there's nothing interesting inside either, so I put it there. Do I like this final ranking? Yeah, fuck it, I don't care. I think the Commonwealth is the best of the Fs. I still have to put it in F, though. Then we got our Cs, we got our Bs. Yeah, these are my favourite locations. Easy. And the prison is S. Yeah, I'm going to stick with that. You guys tell me if you agree or if you disagree and how you do it differently. But that's my ranking. I hope you've enjoyed. Tell me your thoughts. What are your thoughts? What's your favourite location in The Walking Dead main show? And maybe in the future we can do the spin-offs. But like I said, I just want to feel like I'm not doing it off the top of my head, and I've actually got an informed opinion. But we'll see. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.